Okay, I'll make a start. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Innovation and Engagement Conference 2021. A very warm welcome to our final panel of the day, Young Ones, which will run until approximately 6:15. My name's Caris, my pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman with short, mousy coloured hair, and I'm wearing a blue denim dress today. A little bit of housekeeping to get everyone set up and settled into the space before I pass you over to our brilliant host and speakers. Just to let you know that Fergus is our tech lead behind the scenes and will be monitoring the chat room throughout. So please do drop him a message if you need any technical support or assistance. Throughout the event, we are being joined by two BSL interpreters, Jenny and Claire, who are muted, but you should be able to see in your gallery view. A huge thank you to them both for their services today. They are managing the interpretation between themselves and will swap every 20 minutes or so. If you're deaf, hard of hearing, or using this interpretation, we encourage you to follow the 3 dots in the corner of their video and pin them to your screen. We're also joined by Becky. Hi, Becky. Who's a visual scribe. Becky's capturing the conversations and creating beautiful illustrations for each event, which will be uploaded as a resource after the events on our website, and we'll make sure we share all of these with you via email after the event. Throughout the session, if you want to just have a look at what Becky's up to, you can also pin her to your screen and have a little look at the illustration taking shape behind her. And also to let you know, if you're new to Zoom, there are different view modes to watch us today. You may want to explore both in the top right-hand corner of your screen and see which one works best for you. Please note today's event is being recorded and videos will be available at a later date with captioning on our website. Throughout the conversation, please do feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the chat room or to share comments and thoughts and pop any questions for speakers in the Q&A boxes. These will be addressed and fielded by Bav after the main conversations. So we warmly welcome and encourage your thoughts, responses and comments throughout. I'm now delighted to introduce you to former colleague and friend, Bav Bella, who's hosting today's panel conversation. A quick introduction for Bav. Bav is an independent producer and previously assistant producer at Mansions of the Future, which was a radically social arts and cultural organisation based in Lincoln. Mansions was a 3-year programme that privileged social, site-specific and collaborative ways of working brought to life through a public programme of free talks, workshops, communal lunches and family activities, alongside national and international artistic commissions. Bav's notable contributions at Mansions were the Social Housing and Sustainable Futures programme, H. Bernard's major film and music commission from then until now, and Prison Conversations with artist Ruth Beale, which was a series of talks that explored perspectives on incarceration, educational and cultural provision in prisons. As an independent producer, Bav produces events, programmes and exhibitions through the lens of social histories, class and labour. Bav, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Oh, Caris, thank you so much. That was very sweet, and just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that you've been putting this conference together. So I'll start with a brief description of myself as well. I'm my pronouns are he, him, and I am an Indian male. I have a darker skin complexion and black hair and black facial hair. I'm sort of waving at the screen right now if anybody has trouble seeing which pictures they are. So I'll jump into some speaker bios. The way this is going to work today is I'm just going to introduce each of the speakers. They're going to be talking a little bit. I'll try and slow down for the interpreter as well. I'll introduce each of the speakers. They'll talk a little bit about who they are, what they do. And then nearing the latter half of this talk, we'll jump into sort of like a Q&A section between ourselves and the audience. So the first of our panelists that I'm delighted to introduce is Uella Jackson, who is a presenter, content creator, and creative producer based in Bristol. She works as the engagement producer at Rising Arts Agency, a dynamic youth-led social enterprise that works with underrepresented young people aged 18 to 30 to achieve their creative ambitions and mobilise towards radical social change. She sits on the Bristol Commission for Race Equality as the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board and makes work that is centred around community and doing things differently. Alongside her is Stefan Livingston, who is the wellbeing lead for Tri-B Theatre, which seeks to actively build resilience and self-wellbeing primarily with young Black men aged 16 to 25. Using theatre as a creative and supportive outlet, Tri-B wants to help shift mindsets so that young Black men can recognise their own greatness in a world where that greatness is not always recognised or celebrated. As a healthcare professional, Stefan has spent most of his career working with vulnerable and often marginalised young people who experience mental health and social difficulties, primarily within children's social care, youth justice, and the NHS. Passionate about promoting positive mental health and well-being, Stefan believes self-expression is an integral part of positive well-being and development and deeply connected to creative engagement. Also, we are joined today by Holly and Eve, youth representatives from the Society of Explorers based at Sight Gallery in Sheffield, which is a collective of young people aged 14 to 19 who meet regularly to discuss and create and collaborate. They work with artists and the gallery team to get involved in the artistic program and to manage and to develop projects, events, and ideas. So enough about me describing what these guys do. I'll let them actually speak for themselves. I think we'll be starting with Yuella. If you want to just unmute yourself, I'll pop myself on mute and you can talk to the audience about what you do.
Thank you so much, Bav. Hello, everyone. My name is Yuella. My pronouns are she, her. For those who are visually impaired, I'm a Black young woman with a very smiley face usually, and I'm wearing a khaki jumpsuit and I've got blonde hair. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's really good to be able to speak about young people and their brilliance and how we can really kind of embed them into the work that we all do and platform and be inspired by them. So as Bav so brilliantly said, I am the engagement producer at a social enterprise called Rising Arts Agency, where we work with underrepresented young people to help them achieve their creative ambitions, but also mobilize towards creating social change. Now that social change is the thing that's really interesting to us. That's the thing that we're really excited by, because we feel that creativity is a vessel for creating social change. We also believe that creativity creates amazing problem solvers. So that's why we want to kind of think about the ways that we can bring really engaged young people together with forward-thinking organizations to see what can happen. So I'm just gonna share my screen. Aren't you guys lucky? Let's see if it can go without a hitch. Here we are, just to give you a little bit of context into the way we work and who we are. And I think what's really important is to share a little bit about our story, about how we started. So Rising was founded in 2016 by a woman named Kamina Walton. And Kamina was working in Bristol's creative and cultural sector and doing a lot of work with young people in different organisations. And Rising really grew out of those conversations that she had with young people. Some of the stories potentially about exploitation or not valuing young people for their time and their insight. Also young people not really knowing what the kind of progression routes or ways to get into the sector were. So out of that, Rising was born, and Kamina was really keen for Rising to be youth-led, and therefore Rising was co-created with young people. So I'm just going to show a little bit about the sort of values that we have. So, you know, we see ourselves as young, creative, inclusive, radical, adaptable, provocative, and rising. Right, and it was quite important to us that our name reflected the upward direction in which we're trying to move, but also this idea that it's a collective, right? This idea of we are rising. This is something that kind of underpins everything that we do at Rising, this statement, which was started by our youth board members. So the statement is, we, the young people of Rising, believe that we have the knowledge and insight to be leaders now, not just in the future. Okay, that's quite key. With the potential to radically shift our cities and creative industries towards true cooperation and inclusion. And for us, we really wanted to be part of shaping the narrative and changing the narrative around young people as leaders now, because we often talk about, you know, they're our future leaders, you know, they're going to be the next ones coming forward, but they have insight and knowledge now, and we should really be utilizing that. If anything, we shouldn't just be co-opting it. We should be giving young people a platform to lead, because they occupy a very important position in society where they can see what's going on. You know, they're able to kind of see some of the cracks and some of the things that we often miss in mainstream culture. But also they're at that amazing stage in their lives where play and possibilities all seem achievable. So that's something that we're really interested in. So in terms of our leadership in Rising, all of our advisory board members are under the age of 26, and our 2 non-exec directors are under the age of 25. They're actually younger than me. And Kamina had this idea that once she'd run Rising for 5 years and it didn't kind of crash and burn, she would hand over the leadership to 2 young people. And one of those young people is myself and a colleague of mine, Jess Bunyan, who will be taking over the agency in September, which is really scary, but really like exhilarating, because it's like, what happens when you give an organization to young people? What happens, you know, what are the possibilities? And, you know, we talk a lot about people being really up for the idea of young people as leaders in principle. You know, everyone's like, yeah, of course, young people should be leading. Yeah, of course, young people have knowledge and insight. But when it actually comes down to it, it's actually a lot harder than you think. And one of the things that we've learned when thinking about, you know, building and developing just our own organization is the ways in which you have to be really intentional about the work, because the status quo is very much, you know, either rigged against young people. It's, you know, it's exploitative. It, you know, takes advantage of those who are marginalized, who occupy the fringes of our society. So you have to be really intentional about what you're trying to do. You have to kind of speak to the power dynamics that are apparent in the space, you know, because power is everywhere, right? And sometimes power is not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but it's a thing. So some of the things that we've learned is about really kind of being acknowledging the power dynamics that are inherent in the space, and making sure that we actively are trying to counteract that to ensure that young people feel empowered and emboldened to thrive, but also lead. So that's a little bit about our story, but some of the things that we're interested in is kind of exploring the barriers, you know, because we've been doing this for 5 years now, and we are really committed to sharing our learning with other organizations, you know, talking about that idea that I said to you about what happens if we gift an organization, heck, a city, to young people. What happens? And not just any young people, not just young people who are privileged enough to go to university and go through various you know, privileges. What happens when it's underrepresented young people who have a particular insight, who have a particular knowledge, have a particular gift that they could offer. So that's something that we're looking at the moment and trying to explore. Bav, I haven't been keeping an eye on the time, so tell me if I've gone way over.
You're okay for now. I think maybe like 5 or so minutes, but you should be okay.
Okay, brilliant. You're a star. So some of the ways in which we work when thinking about building young people into not just our organization, but into our sector and into our city, is thinking about this idea about how do you, one, build a community of young people, and how do you take them on a journey to then empower them to see themselves as leaders. Now, in the organization, we do a range of different programs and offerings in order to kind of nurture this kind of radical leadership skills, you know, whether it's our radical leadership program that we have called Be It, or whether it's On Board, a program that we have to get young people onto boards of cultural organizations, or whether it's, you know, bringing young people in as consultants to organizations to really kind of identify what the barriers are, and what some of the kind of changes that various organizations can make to make their offers, their cultural offers, more inclusive. You know, that's something that we do in our work. But when we're actually thinking about our community of young people, how do we build that community, and how do we take them on that journey? How do we empower them? You know, how do we give them a sense of ownership of our organization? So this is a kind of framework that we developed, co-developed with one of the young people in our community. And here are some kind of questions and provocations that we share when thinking about these various stages of, one, building a community, 2, engaging that community, and 3, empowering that community so that they feel that they can take on the mantle and run with it without you. So the kind of the first questions are like, you know, who are we trying to connect with? Are we accessible and inclusive? You know, what can we do for that community, but also with that community? And then when we're looking at engaging the community, we're thinking about how do we build trust within that existing community? You know, how can we collaborate? How can we share our skills and knowledge with each other? And then when we're looking at empowering that community, we're thinking about, you know, how do we have that integrated collective strategizing or co-creation and make that part of the process? And how has what we've done with that community inspired other things for them? So those are just a couple of things that I just want to leave it on. But we are really actively thinking about how we are, one, we can support others to do the work that we do, to take the leap into having young people as leaders now, not just in the future. But 2, we're also thinking about how we can continually build an inclusive and accessible community that we are then empowering to go and do their own things. So thank you, everyone. And I look forward to talking with you in a bit more detail later.
Thank you so much, Uwella. That's really fascinating stuff. It's a shame that we're on like a limited time span, because I feel like there's so much more to extrapolate from what you're talking about. Just another little quick side note as well, if anybody does have any questions, you can always pop them into the Q&A throughout the talks. And alternatively, if the speakers want to ask each other questions, it's really, I think it'd be really quite nice if you guys just put in and start having a conversation between yourselves. I think it'd be really engaging. So next, I think we've got Stefan, and I believe you have a presentation as well. So if you want to just unmute yourself, get that share screen going.
Hi, everyone. So thank you guys for having me. It's so good to be here. My name's Stefan. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a Black man. I have a little bit of a beard, and my hair is in cane rows. So they're kind of poked back for those of you that can see. And I'm wearing a beigey grey shirt, which says Tribe House on it as well. I will just share my screen. Can everyone see that? If you guys can give me a thumbs up, bro. Okay. Brilliant. Oh, okay. We've gone a little bit too far too quickly. So we're Tribe House, and as earlier, I'm one of the team that helped found Tribe House. A little bit different to you, Ella. Tribe House is very new, so we're 6 months old, but we're really focused on raising the aspirations for young Black men. that's really at the heart of what we're doing and what we want to do in the future. Some of what we do at Tribe House is really underpinned by our real concern for the mental health of young Black men within our society. And I'm just going to take you through just two really interesting and also slightly worrying statistics that kind of showcase why we're so passionate about young people, young Black men's mental health and well-being. So we know that young Black men are over 10 times, and it's actually closer to 11 times more likely to experience complex mental health problems, such as psychosis, when compared to the rest of the population. And we also know that young Black men are over 4 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act when compared to the rest of the population. And actually, this particular piece of data is actually something that's quite recent and really underpins what we're worried about. At Tribe, we're really concerned about raising the profile of mental health and well-being, specifically through the means of creative self-expression and through theatre. So these are just some of the kind of headlines of our vision and our aim and essentially what we're trying to do. We're trying, and we are providing a culturally and psychologically informed space where young Black men can learn, grow, and develop without judgment. A big part of that is to be able to provide young Black men with a space where they can really develop in their own identities. One thing that we found from different groups of young Black men that we've worked with is that often we come across issues around identity, and actually mental health can often be a part of that. And we feel that by providing education around mental health to help young Black men to really think more widely about what makes them them, to help them to understand that actually your mental health and well-being is a part of your identity, but not always all of your identity, really underpins what we do. We raise the aspirations of young Black men and promote exposure to a sector that is not regularly accessed by the community. So we know that within particularly theatre, but within the creative sector as a whole, young Black men are often underrepresented. And one thing that we're passionate about is exposing young people from areas like myself. So I'm from Croydon in South London. But we're really passionate about exposing a group and a community that often don't engage in things like theatre to new experiences and to really hopefully aim to see some of those young people really pursue careers within theatre. We want to develop champions by introducing young Black men to theatrical skills, promoting confidence, public speaking, and resilience. And for me, as the wellbeing lead, the part that I'm really passionate about is promoting resilience. We want to push our young Black men to have the resilience around their mental health, to gain education, to develop strategies to manage their psychological well-being in a way that allows, and we're not an outright mental health service, but to help contribute to reduction in some of those statistics that I showed previously. We're really keen to diversify the ways in which young Black men experience and manage their psychological well-being. So some people on here may be aware that drama and creative therapies are being much more widely used in areas like CAMHS, which is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. And actually there's a lot more research that's showing that things like self-expression, like using arts, allowing people to really express themselves in a really diverse way can all benefit people's mental health. And actually, we don't have to be contained to some of those textbook or more traditional ways of improving mental health. So for some people, sitting in a one-to-one setting and being forced to talk about how they feel might not really be of benefit and might not work for that individual. And what we want to do through theatre and through the creative arts is to really give people a real range of ways of expressing themselves and promoting positive mental health and well-being. We're also keen to create artistic work that is reflective of their reality and experience, and to showcase this to the community. We have some really exciting projects that are coming up in the coming weeks, where we're really focused on having our young people really showcase what their reality is. Oftentimes working with young people, it can be easy to put forward what we feel their reality should be, or take our own experiences and kind of try to guide young people to showcase our version of reality. But actually, we're really passionate about our young people showing their experiences, their feelings, their emotions, and showing that back to the community in its broadest sense. And as I've said previously, it's using theatre as that creative form of self-expression. And that's what really gets me excited. We recently had a group of young people engage in some sessions with us. And one thing that came back, we had a young person who was from what would be typically considered as a hard to reach or marginalized group that would never access theatre. And actually, they really engaged in it and they gave a really creative piece. And that was a young person who we were told before, we don't even know if they'd access your service. And actually, they ended up being able to deliver something that was A, really unique, and B, something that really allowed them to communicate feelings that they struggled to verbally. Bav, how am I for time, out of interest?
I think you're doing okay. You've got about 5 to 7 minutes, something like that. Yeah,
okay, cool. Okay, great. So these are just some images from one of the groups that we worked with a little while ago. And when I see some of these images, it really makes me smile, because we're taking groups of young Black men, honestly, from such a range of backgrounds, to the theatre, to the forefront, and having the confidence to stand up and showcase their experiences and to really communicate that creatively. In terms of Tribe House and where we are at the moment, we're currently working with Royal Court and in particularly Paynes Plough to really take what we're doing at Tribe to a much broader community. So with Paynes Plough, we're doing some tours over the coming months between August and November. And we're really focused on taking these projects to different areas around the UK. Usually our program lasts for 10 weeks at a time, but within the Paynes Plough tour, we're really doing lots of focused, targeted workshops with young people across the country. Ooh, and these are just some images from something that we've done quite recently that we were really excited about. We took a group of young Black men who hadn't accessed theatre before to their first show to see Death of a Black Man that was on at Hampstead Theatre. And we were so happy about being able, again, to take groups of young people who have never had that exposure to theatre, to see theatre, but more importantly, to reflect on that theatre, and they're now engaged in a programme of work.
Stefan, sorry to jump in.
Sorry, yeah.
How was that first-time experience for a lot of those people?
It was actually really interesting getting the feedback. I think a lot of the young people well, all the young people that we spoke to, they said that theatre wasn't what they expected it to be. So I think there was a bit of a perception that theatre was something that would never be for them, and that theatre is something that it's not for young black guys. That, you know, theatre, we don't, that was kind of the perception. And actually seeing other black artists performing, I think was really quite inspiring for a lot of the group. And actually for them, we've retained all of in fact, the whole group from that day, who have said, actually, no, I'd like to come to the next one. And actually, I like to kind of express myself a little bit more creatively. And so, yeah, that was the feedback we had. It was really nice actually to step back and actually just kind of look at the group and be like, wow, we've actually got this group of guys who would never go, and actually they've really enjoyed it. So yeah. Did anyone else have any other questions at all?
I think we're okay just for this second. Yeah. As they come, I'll start popping them in anyways. But are you finished with your talk? You still got a few minutes more?
I was just going to introduce the rest of the team.
Sorry. Yeah. I cut you off. I've killed you.
No, it's okay.
Carry on.
No, it's okay. So just to introduce the rest of the team, our creative producer on the right-hand side is Shinubi Bailey, who is really focused on performance movement. She's absolutely amazing and currently works with Greenwich Dance. And we've also got our artistic director, who of course isn't here today, Philip Morris, who has had a lot of experience on the theatre side of things. He worked for a long time at Lightpost Theatre in Birmingham, and done lots of work with different communities up there. So, and then there's myself, the Wellbeing Lead, but you guys have heard loads about me already. So that's the team at the moment. And in terms of where you can find us, literally just Tribe House on any socials. And if you give that a Google, then our website comes up as well. So I hope that covers what we do and what we're passionate about. And please do, if you have any questions, fire them at me.
Thank you so much, Stefan. As usual, it's really interesting to see you speak. We met before last week in like a pre-meet, and it was one of those things where like I wanted to learn more and more about what you guys do. But yeah, fantastic talk as well. I've got a few questions already lined up, but I think we should move on with other things first, and I shouldn't be so selfish and fill it up with just my conversation. I think we've got Eve and Holly actually from the Site Gallery, accompanied by Peter. And I know you guys had a couple of questions. I thought maybe it's a good idea if you guys just explain what the Society of Explorers are and what you guys do.
Yeah. I'm Eve. My pronouns are they, them. I've got dark hair and pale skin, and I'm wearing black.
I'm Holly. My pronouns are she, her, and I've got long hair, and I'm wearing like a pink jacket, and I'm wearing glasses.
We're both part of Society of Explorers, which is a group of 14 to 19-year-olds at Site Gallery, and we've been doing it over Zoom for the past year or over since COVID, but we used to all come into Site Gallery and do it, and it's run by Alfie and Peter, as you probably already know, and we do contemporary arts, but we get to actually speak to the artists instead, and it's much more inclusive, and we get to help the artists like improve on their projects and decide like can't explain. Sorry. and we get to like sort of test their work and their projects that they're going to do with other people, and they come to Site Gallery after we've done their projects, and to run family workshops, which we have hopefully helped them improve on.
I guess it must feel like actually a lot more enriching to actually work really hands-on with artists rather than sort of like talk about artists and not have that actual interaction. I know you guys had some comments about like why you feel it's different to making art in school and actually making art with the artists in the gallery setting. I don't know if you've got any comments on that, Earl.
Yeah, it's much more inclusive and more hands-on, because when you're at school and you do art, you just study an artist and you look at their work and say why you like it and what you like, and you just explain their art and recreate it almost. But
Yeah.
with Society of Explorers, we're actually doing the artists' art with them, and we're helping them to improve, and we're making our own version of their art, but with their help. So it's much more, I guess, exact, and it's a lot easier actually.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous actually. I wish I had these types of opportunities when I was back in school as well. How have you found the sort of like last year with like lockdown and working with the explorers and stuff like that?
I found it really good. I only joined in February, so I've only seen it on Zoom, like, but it's been really good on Zoom and worked really well, and all the little like video camera angles different artists like set up when they do like workshops and stuff, and like we had an artist, Soraya Nabipo, who like we used the Zoom camera like square for his workshop like and stuff. So it was really good.
Oh, that's really cool. Holly, how about yourself? How have you found it?
I found it really good. I was a bit anxious about joining the club because I'm not that good in group situations, but they were really like inviting, and it was a nice atmosphere. Like,
yeah. How about you?
I've actually been here for probably nearly 2 years now.
Oh wow, yeah.
I think I'm one of the longest serving members, but I've been there since it was like in person, and I've just always found it really good and enjoyable.
Have you seen? Oh, that's really interesting. Have you seen much changes in like how it's worked, or like what's sort of like the type of work that you've done and the type of access that you've had over the past 2 years?
I mean, I feel like at first it was. We probably were testing projects and helping people improve for family workshops, but I didn't actually know that. I just thought it was like workshops for us to like use for our art and for us to do in general. I didn't actually know that we were helping Site Gallery.
Well, that must have felt amazing.
And then I found that out, and I was like, oh, okay.
And like you guys are working on a zine as well, so I don't know much about the zine, and I'm sure some of the audience might not know about it. But do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's like case studies of like all the workshops and like projects we've done online. So we've done like some work with Bolton Contemporary and like Genetic New and Julia Sai, and it's gonna like sum up and like a documentation of all that and a testament to all that work and experience like we've gathered.
Oh, wow. It's really good to hear about this stuff, and I'll be really excited to see the sort of like zine when it comes out. I think you guys are going to be posting it around as well. We'll probably chat a little bit about that at the end of the talk. Actually, I think maybe it's a good time to jump in with some like questions and things like this. And I've already got like a few lined up. Obviously, feel free to ask each other questions as well as I'll be talking about audience questions as they come and go. So I think the first of my things was for Uella. So there's this sort of like theme or this phrase about the civic duty of art spaces, which I found to be like really quite interesting. And this is kind of an open question for everybody as well, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to articulate it the best way, but I sort of noted it down to myself. It was like, do you think that we are at a point where our understanding and assumptions of the artwork, art world, or like the gallery are becoming more focused on social representation and the effects?
That's a great question. I want to share a point that I heard from an amazing creative practitioner called Rabab Ghazul, who works in Cardiff. And she said that with Gentle Radical, an organization called Gentle Radical, they're great. She said that the arts and the culture sector is one of the only sectors that is able to display and showcase work about oppression and suffering and exclusivity without changing. And I thought that was quite an interesting paradox of the ways in which I personally feel that the ways in which a lot of organizations, they feel very comfortable when it comes to talking about or putting a panel on about certain things, certain issues that we need to kind of change in our society, but completely remain unchanged within their organizations. So when we're talking about this idea of the civic duty, I think part of the civic duty is about having a kind of looking and introspective look at your own organization and kind of making the necessary and potentially scary changes to ensure that you are not perpetuating the things that you might be putting a panel on about or whatever. So I think it's a really interesting kind of paradox. And I think you can really kind of see the organizations that are really trying to grapple with some of maybe the legacy or the kind of more of the uncomfortable points about the kind of culture of arts and culture organizations in the country.
Yeah, I was thinking when you're talking about the sort of like rotation of staff members and things like this, that must be like really scary, but at the same time, really sort of like affirms the fact of what you guys are doing is your goals are to make changes, structural changes, not just sort of like surface level changes. And I don't know if Stefan, maybe you've got some comments on the sort of like, I guess maybe actually with the men that you work with, the young men that you work with, they probably have these sort of like preconceived sort of notions or ideas about the sort of like theatre space, what that is, and the sort of like colonial representation, I imagine, around it. Hence, you know, they feel possibly so detached or so far removed from it. It's very much a, no pun intended, but like a black and white thing for them.
I think that's definitely the case. To speak kind of explicitly, I think a lot of things like theatre, drama, and arts in general is seen as something, or can be seen as something, that Black people don't do. And so it creates often a wall, and quite a thick wall, to encourage people from the community to access these spaces and these things, and particularly to access it in a meaningful and sustained way. I think in the flip side is that a lot of the young Black men that we work with, you're not just dealing with that person just in terms of their own views, but often those are views that have been passed down. So, great, theatre's great, but think about a different career, or think about doing something else, because this space just isn't for you. And actually, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, I guess, speaking from my personal experience as well, in like minority communities, there's a lot of focus on sort of like what is financially viable, how can you support a family and things like this. And the arts and cultural sectors, for a lot of people, particular backgrounds, probably are not as tangible as the stereotypical like lawyer, doctor, engineer, etc., sort of fields. So I guess there's like multiple sort of like rationale for why that could be passed down to younger generations. I feel like that's that's eroding obviously a lot more now. But it sort of got me thinking about how you actually got into, how were you introduced into theatre?
That's a really good question, actually. So as a teenager, I absolutely loved drama. I loved performing, and I got to end of year 9, and at that time was told, talking to my parents, and was told, oh yeah, that's great, you can keep doing kind of drama stuff, but you can't study drama as a GCSE. That was just, it wasn't on the cards, it wasn't actually allowed. And so actually that side of me was suppressed for a long time. And I think it's through my relationship with the artistic director, Phil, a good friend of mine. He's kind of been in theatre, been directing for a long time. And actually, I think my time at CAMHS, so working in child and adolescent mental health services, and seeing how we could really diversify how we delivered therapy through the likes of drama therapy, art therapy, caught my attention back to theatre. And actually going to some shows, I was like, this is amazing. This would be such an amazing way of allowing people to express themselves whilst having some meaningful, positive well-being support. And that kind of is what piqued my interest and has sort of got me on the scene, I guess, in a sense, with theatre.
Well, thanks for that, man. There was like a few other questions that I had about the sort of long-term aims and goals of what you guys are doing. Again, I'm not sure if I'll be able to articulate a question out of it, but it got me thinking about what your sort of ambitions are for these younger people in like 10 years' time, where you hope to see them, what you hope to see that they've taken out of this, these experiences with yourselves. Whoever wants to go first.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you allow that, you.
Oh, beautiful.
Sorry, no, I can go, it's okay. Sorry.
Oh.
You're too polite.
For us, I think number one, the number one aim for me, based on my background, is definitely that our young people can see that they can explore positive mental health in really diverse ways, and to have a space where they can learn about their own mental health in a safe setting where they can be given education by people that also look like them. I know that representation is really important. And secondly, I know that as a group and a collective, we'd love to see some of the young men that access our program actually working and contributing to the theatre sector. That would be an amazing outcome for us in 10 years' time if we had sort of young people involved in delivering Tribe House and even their own organisations. That that would be amazing. That would be, that would really be wonderful.
And like Stefan, I'm not even the co-director of Rising yet, but I'm looking for the next co-director. I'm looking for the next people to take over the agency, and this idea of movement and progression is really kind of key to the way that we work. But we want to see the young people that we work with and beyond kind of just infiltrating the creative sector and being able to take a lot of the skills that they learn in the arts and the creative sector into other industries as well, because I think there's a lot of learning that can be gained from the kind of way that creatives think, the way that they do things, just like what Stefan's talking about in terms of like using drama and theatre as a way to kind of address mental health issues and self-expression. So that's something that we're definitely here for too.
That's amazing. I I think actually Eve just popped a question over. I don't know if you want to read it out.
That was Hollow.
Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Okay. It's for you, Ella and Stefan. Do the members of your clubs, of your companies, do you meet up like weekly, and how do you advertise your companies? I think they're really good, by the way, to young people and approach young people who may be struggling with their mental health, like but scared to join or might be a bit like shy and introverted. How do you like approach them kinds of people?
Definitely. Well, I'm happy to go first since I'm unmuted. So for us, we found that the biggest, I guess the best publicity is young people, right? So seeing other young people doing the things that they love is a really great way of attracting other young people. So last year we did a massive billboard campaign, and we took over the billboards and poster sites of Bristol, and we gifted them to the young people in our community, and we're like, okay, what do you want to say to the city? This is your time. And you know, other young people being able to see, you know, their peers on billboards, taking pictures next to billboards, really is a great way of kind of sparking that energy, because, you know, at the end of the day, people aren't gonna engage with someone who doesn't feel like them. So like Stefan said, representation is really key, and the fact that all the team in Rising are all relatively young, we're not as young as you, but we're there, we still classify ourselves as young, so that really helps. But also having multiple ways in. You said with young people who are struggling with their mental health, or, you know, might not be feeling confident to be able to say, yeah, I'd love to do that, or they might think, oh, that's not for me. Having multiple avenues to access Rising's work, whether it is, you know, like we used to email our young people all the time, we're like, hey, here's an opportunity for you, do you want to get involved? Wouldn't hear anything. So we were like, okay, we need to start texting people. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, we need a WhatsApp group, you know? So like really just being adaptable to the people and letting them tell us what they want and tell us what they need. Yeah, it's been amazing for us, and there's still a lot of work that we need to do there. We know that there are young people in our city that we, one, don't have the capacity to work with, or two, haven't been able to connect with them in the way that we want to. So we're really kind of trying to put a lot of money and time into just being like, okay, what do you want? Let's have a chat. So that's a bit about us.
Yeah. It's really cool. I like how because the mental health services, like I know from my own experiences, they're like stretched. I think it's really good how you're helping people like with art and theatre. I think it's really good. So well done.
I think just on that particular point, I think it's really important, as you said, as someone who's worked at CAMHS, and I know how difficult it can be to access support for mental health and well-being as a young person, especially if you're sort of struggling. Often the point that actually someone recognizes that you might need some extra support, there's then a sort of usually a long waiting list, and actually you need the support now, and actually the support's coming 6, 7, sometimes longer months down the line. For us, Yuella mentioned something about other young people, knowing other young people who use your service and be motivated by it. What we've tried to do is connect with lots of other agencies and organizations to kind of essentially source different groups in different areas across London, which is going quite well. We also allow young people to access us, so literally just a call or an email in, and we will kind of find out what that young person is interested in, to try and see where they might be best placed. So our actual programs run for 10 weeks at a time, and that is weekly sessions. But we also have the group that is focused on accessing new opportunities, which is set up a little bit differently. But on the back of those 10-week sessions, just in terms of kind of mental health support, I am a resource for young people to have I'm not saying we're providing outright therapy, because that's not possible within the framework, but to offer that extra support. And for young people who may be struggling, I'm not sure if anyone here has heard of things like grounding techniques. We try to incorporate that into what we do, so that our young people don't just maybe hear it in a session with their therapist, they're also having that reinforced when they see us, and being able to kind of manage, how do you manage a panic attack? What does that look like? Which might, on some level, might seem really basic, but actually, if you're the one experiencing some of those things, can be really helpful. So for us, it's kind of different streams of how we kind of access our young people. And like Yuella said, emails do not work for us. We usually get the first email in, and then after that you have to call or WhatsApp it almost explicitly. So yeah.
Thanks so much for the answers. There's a few questions from the audience that have started coming in as well. And we've still got about 15 or so minutes, so I thought we'll rattle through these before I have some sort of like closing off comments and stuff like this. We've actually got some for Eve and Holly as well, actually. So one of these questions is, do you get involved with staff meetings and help with any big decisions at Site Gallery? And also, like, do you think arts / cultural organizations could do better to listen to young people's opinions and interests?
With the first question, we don't get involved with staff meetings, I don't think, but we do help with big decisions at Site Gallery. And a few years ago, we decided to have like gender-neutral toilets in the building, which I feel is very current still. It's like much needed for a lot of people that come to Site Gallery. And more recently, I think we designed an art van for like mobile arts sort of workshops, I guess.
That's really interesting.
Once we're too old to be in Site Gallery's explorers, we have like the option to.
I thought you were just going to say too old to be in Site Gallery, full stop.
Once we're too old to be there, like in the explorers group, we have the option to like join the board, and
That's awesome.
very inclusive. And I think to say that we're like children and all like teenagers, we have a lot of say on what happens, which is
definitely. I think it definitely is a thing that organizations do need to look at more sort of like different sort of age groups, more diverse sort of like representation of people on their boards, etc., etc. It can only do benefit for sort of access for the cultural sector. I think there's another little question here for you as well, which was about how important is the networking element during that sort of like Society of Explorers time that you were there. I guess it must have been super important networking, like meeting loads of different people and like new artists and stuff.
Do you want to go? You can go. I feel like through Society of Explorers, I've made like quite a few friends in the group, and I've met like a lot of artists that I've found very like I say influential and interesting, and I still like follow them on Instagram. I follow them on Instagram. I follow their websites now, and like I still look at their art that they're creating now, and I still follow them.
That's amazing stuff. There's like a bunch more questions here, so I'll go over to this one. I think this one's maybe for Stefan, maybe also Yuella, but it's what strategies do you have for engaging hard to reach young people, particularly those who don't yet have any interest in the arts? Do you find that it is initially about offering the space for community and opportunity? Oh, Stefan, I think your volume just cut out. Or just mute and unmute.
Can you hear me now? I've changed
Yeah.
my phone.
That's great.
Could you just run the question to me again? Sorry, that little distraction caught my...
Yeah, no problem. So what strategies do you have for engaging more hard to reach young people? Particularly those who might not have an interest, but yeah.
I think in my experience of engaging hard to reach groups, one of the first things you can do is get out and about in that community. So first of all, not having the onus on hard to reach groups accessing your service. It's about you accessing them. So being available and in the community, and not focusing primarily on whether it's about art and theatre or about something else, but just hearing what are the underlying needs of that community. So hearing what are the themes, what are the issues, and then after that, once people feel heard and really listened to, and a key thing is, I know this term is used a lot, and in my opinion, sometimes too loosely, but not feeling when people don't feel judged. If people feel that you've really taken that time to understand what's going on for them and what's underneath it, I think that can be an icebreaker. And so the issue is not, are you interested in the arts? It's people buy into the fact that you actually care. And for us, that's something that we found helpful in gaining traction with groups of young people who arts is they're just not interested in. I hope that kind of answers our approach to that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything Stefan said. Something that really stands out to me is the experience of when the Barbershop Chronicles play came to Bristol Old Vic Theatre. And to be honest with you, I would have never gone to see the show, even though I love the playwright, I love the concept, but is the space really for me? But then I was given a free ticket, which really helped, and I loved it when I saw it. But then I was given the opportunity to be, I think they're called, like, I don't know, let's just say ambassador. And they gave me 25 tickets to give away for free. And they said, all you need to do is make sure that there are people that would have never come to the theatre otherwise. So I just ran with it. I felt like I was doing these random dodgy deals, driving to this part of Bristol at this time of night to give people 2 tickets to go, and vice versa. But literally, this theatre show changed everyone's life. You kind of walk in and there was the music that you identify with, and there's the vibes, and it wasn't this kind of you have these certain there's a certain code, an unspoken code in theatre spaces about everyone kind of goes in and, you have to be quiet and stuff like that. But they were completely throwing that on its head, inviting people to come onto the stage to dance before it started. It really did feel like a way that you could feel a sense of ownership of the space, because you saw that everyone in the audience was Black, everyone in the stage was Black. And therefore it felt like, okay, this is a place potentially for me for the night. But then it meant that people were then encouraged to go again. I was speaking not just to young people, I was speaking to people in their 60s and inviting them, and 35-year-olds who had just come out of prison, and it really did shake things up. So, your suggestion of giving space to the community is a brilliant way to do it. But if they don't know about you and if they don't feel welcome, it's not going to work. So you need to think about what Stefan says about meeting people where they are, finding out what the need is, and whether it means you're not at the point where there's the trust that you can do it yourself. Is there anyone else that you can bring on board to help bridge that gap until that trust is built? Because now, Bristol Old Vic is, a very kind of well-established, very middle-class space, but it feels like there is scope and possibility now that people would have never thought of before. So I hope that helps.
That's great. Thank you so much for your insights. Some of the other questions, there's one here, I think we sort of covered a lot of the points of it already, but how can we use creativity and the arts to help young people explore their own ideas around oppression, racism, homophobia, classism, ableism, etc., etc. Don't know who's got any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to go now. Yeah, I think the thing about, you know, what we really believe is that creativity is a tool not just for self-expression, but it's a way of making a challenge, is a way of connecting to people, is a way of communicating ideas and thoughts. The thing that is so important and crucial about the arts and creativity is that it provides a medium for us to reimagine the world in a way that we can't usually do it in the kind of confines of the way that the world is right now. And I think that's what's so brilliant about it. That's what's so brilliant about, you know, illustration and animation particularly, because these are mediums that you can really do something wild and wacky. But if you were doing it in a kind of real live action film, you wouldn't be able to demonstrate them in the same way without using some sort of CGI or special effects or something. So I think it's about giving young people the opportunity and the spaces to be able to do that, but not just to express themselves, but also to platform it. Because, you know, like as Stefan was kind of saying about going to the theatre and seeing it and receiving it is a completely different thing from you just like making something in your bedroom and no one else sees it. So it's really important to create the opportunities and the spaces for young people to make and to think about these things. And maybe you might want to give them provocations or prompts, but often they can kind of come up with their own. You just need to hold space for that. But then it's about, okay, how can we showcase that? Is it a billboard campaign? Is it a theatre piece? You know, is it a podcast? You know, giving people a space to showcase that will also kind of build their confidence, as well as giving other people an opportunity to really think and engage with that stuff.
I definitely agree. I think the showcasing element is where the key is. So it's taking it from just, oh, I've made something up, to actually I'm delivering something that people are seeing. I now have that's what takes it to, I now have a voice and my voice matters. So the billboard, that billboard movement sounds absolutely amazing, by the way, Yuella. But you having your story or something that you care about on a billboard means that even if someone doesn't want to see it, they've seen it, and your voice now matters. And I think that's really important. I think as a sector, I think providing those spaces and the key thing from my perspective, from a wellbeing perspective, is making sure they're safe emotionally and psychologically, but to also use that space to provide education. Art is a beautiful way of providing education. You know, historically, going back thousands of years, when not everyone in society could read or write, the way of communication was via arts. It was via theatre and drama pieces, and so actually, if we strip it right back, actually some of the best way of telling stories on history and for communicating how we feel has always been through drama and creativity. So yeah.
Nice, thank you so much. We've got about 5 or so minutes left, so it's probably about time we should start doing a bit of a wrap up. I think there was one question. I'm not sure if it's probably a little bit too long, but it was for Stefan. It was maybe I'll just cheekily chuck it in really quickly. But it was regarding the figures that you had when you're doing your presentation about relating to the mental health of young Black men. Do you know how these compared to figures, say, from 12 or 24 months ago, as in prior to the lockdown?
That is a good question. Those figures are both from just prior to lockdown. The second figure on detentions was initially published in 2019, and on the 11 times more likely to present with psychotic symptoms or complex mental health is also from prior to lockdown. I would imagine, if I can just, working in the area I work in, I would imagine those have gone up over the course of lockdown.
Yeah.
And I think one of the challenges is that young black people in general tend to present to mental health services later, whereas other communities are more likely to access mental health support earlier in difficulty.
Okay, thanks for answering that question. That one was there from a while ago, and I would have felt really bad if I didn't chuck it back out there. But I just want to invite over Kerry Campbell, who is the good friend of mine and was the previous artistic director of Mansion of the Future. I think you just wanted to speak briefly about the zine before I do a little wrap up.
Yeah, I just wanted to contextualize the zine that Holly and Eve were talking about. So the zine is kind of like an organizational resource for Site Gallery, but it's also something that is invested in like cross-organizational learning. And it's from the perspective of these young people on the program. And it's about how organizations can effectively work with young people in a fun way. So it captures a lot of their projects this year. We'll be distributing that to attendees of the conference who are interested and want a copy. So after the conference, just keep an eye on your emails, and we'll be soliciting like postal addresses if you wanted a copy of that. But yeah, just extra love to the young people there for that resource, and also speaking so kind of bravely and generously about everything that they do at Site Gallery. So well done, guys. I think you've done a brilliant job, and Yuella and Stefan, of course. But yeah, that's the zine, and you'll get some more info on your emails.
Cheers, Kerry. Thanks for that. I'm just going to wrap it all up now by saying, well, thank you to all of the speakers. It's been really, really insightful. And if we had more time in a more personal setting, I feel like we could actually like really talk quite a lot more about our thoughts and ideas and sort of like amazing work that you guys do. So thank you to you, Yuella, Stefan, Eve, Holly, and Peter, who's been off camera all this time, but he's also very much present there. It's been a real privilege to have you join us today, and we're so grateful for your honest, thoughtful, and inspiring contributions to this discussion. And also a special thanks to everybody that's been sort of behind the scenes, so the ESL interpreters, Jenny and Claire. I'm so sorry that we've been talking at 100 miles per hour, but thank you so much for keeping up with us. We're really grateful for all of your service, and also Becky, who is doing a little sketch in the background I can see. She was our visual scribe who's creating beautiful illustrated notes to help us capture the sort of like spirit of today's discussions. We'll ensure that we share all of that with you after the events as well. And a quick little reminder is that this is the end of day one, and of course we have day two, so we got 3 more events coming up tomorrow if you're able to join us. That will be day 2 of the Innovation in Engagement Conference 2021. We have Curating the Institution, which I'm really looking forward to, and an information conversation with Baltic Centre for Contemporary Art. There is Democratic by Design and Digital Infrastructures. But you can check out everything in a lot more detail and find the tickets and everything on the webpage, and we'll probably post something into the chat. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. Cheers. Have a good day.